I stood quietly in the corner of the riverfront hotel ballroom where the chandeliers above refracted light into my champagne like a silent warning. At the center of the room, Madison twirled in her $12,000 snow-white wedding dress, the embodiment of a fantasy funded by fiction. Laughter and clinking glasses echoed around me like hollow wind chimes, decorative noise with no soul. I wasn't laughing, I was calculating. Behind every sparkle in that ballroom was a line of debt, a string of zeros flashing in my mind like a slow-moving train wreck I could neither stop nor ignore. I was Lily, 35, an auditor allergic to chaos, trained to clean up what others ruin. In this family, I was never the dreamer, never the favorite, just the one they called when the foundation started to crack. And this time, the crack was a $55,000 loan. Madison had come undone at my office door weeks before mascara smeared, voice trembling, posture collapsed like a failed Broadway performance. "You're the only one who can help me," she had wept. It was a line I'd heard before, like a tune you don't even like but can't get out of your head. I remember the way I looked at her that day, tired, bitter, skeptical. "You're buried in credit card debt. Your fiancé's startup doesn't even have a tax ID. And now you want over 50 grand for a castle orchids and a string quartet." But she didn't flinch. She never does, because Madison knows the next scene in the script always brings in our parents. My mother summoned me to the living room, laying down warm apple pie like it was a peace treaty. Her voice was syrupy sweet. "You've always sacrificed for this family, Lily. This is no different." My father barely looked up from his newspaper. "She'll pay you back. Don't get dramatic over a few numbers." I laughed, then not kindly. It was sharp and hollow, cutting through the nostalgia in the house like a scalpel. She kept her word, like she did with the bakery. The rent she forgot, the money I covered. My mother's face flushed, voice hardening. "You're so selfish, Lily. Your sister has dreams. All you see are invoices." I clenched my champagne glass, swallowing the fire climbing up my throat. This was the same trap, emotional blackmail wrapped in the silk of family loyalty. And once again, I was the cold-hearted older sister ruining the fairy tale. But this time, I didn't cave. I calculated. 3 nights later, I sat in my New Haven apartment laptop, glow flickering against the red wine beside me. Genesis, my best friend and my lawyer, sat across from me, arms crossed, eyes unblinking. "Are you sure there's no turning back this time?" I flipped through the contract we'd drafted. "That's the point," I said. Genesis smirked and poured more wine. "So you're going to let them walk into the hole they dug?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. That night, we rewrote every clause, tight binding and merciless. She inserted one new line under extended guarantor responsibility. If Madison and Brad left the country without repaying the debt, would default straight to my parents. "They'll sign it without reading," Genesis said, pointing to the clause. "They always do," I replied. "They've never read a single thing I've signed, and this time I'm just following their rules." I treated the signing day like a corporate board meeting. Contracts were neatly bound clauses in bold, and the bank's legal rep sat beside me for good measure. Madison flipped a few pages, wrinkled her nose. This is so complicated. But I trust you. If you sign, I'll sign." Brad barely glanced. He signed like he was approving lunch. When it was my parents' turn, Genesis pushed the pen forward in silence. My mother sighed. "You always make things so complicated, Lily. Your sister will pay. She always does." I just smiled, polite and distant. "Just in case, Mom." They all signed, none of them read. I gathered the documents and stood. All done. The dream wedding is officially on. Madison hugged me tight, voice dripping with gratitude. "You're the best sister ever." I let her hold me, my expression empty. They still thought I was the naive older sister, the safety net. They didn't know the net had sharp edges now. 3 months passed. The fairy tale faded. The due date, June 15th, was circled in red on my calendar. I had the account open ready to track the payment, but the only thing that arrived was silence. And in that silence, I smiled, because I knew the game had only just begun. No transfer, no confirmation, nothing but dead air. I refreshed my banking app 3 times, then again, just to silence that last sliver of doubt. Still nothing. I dialed Madison's number. Disconnected. Brad's, too. That's when the truth clicked into place, not with a bang, but a slow, sickening crawl. Madison's Instagram held the final nail. There they were, 2 grinning silhouettes sprawled on sun-drenched lounge chairs, Bali's turquoise waters stretching behind them like some cinematic escape scene. The caption, "The world belongs to those who dare to dream big. Debt-free life. Cheers to us." The comments were effusive. Heart emojis, fire emojis. Worshipful words from people who'd never seen the contracts, never smelled the rot beneath the roses. No one but me. Brad and Madison had vanished into the fantasy they paid for with lies and left me holding the wreckage. I texted. I emailed. I called. Nothing. I even reached out to mutual friends' dead ends. Until a single smug message came through from Brad Relax Lily. "Madison and I will handle it. You just keep doing your thing. Best not to worry." I didn't reply. There was no need. Brad was still playing the same tired game, assuming I'd scramble, that I'd cover their mess out of duty, guilt, or fear. He thought I was still the obedient fixer, too afraid to fracture the family image. But he never noticed this time the rules weren't his. Genesis appeared at my office just past 5, holding 2 coffees, her expression guarded. "They're gone, aren't they?" I nodded, turning my laptop toward her. A story clip from Brad's profile played. There he was, smiling smug, signing some sleek contract to open his company in Dubai. He looked like a man reborn, not someone neck-deep in unpaid debt. Genesis raised a brow. "You ready to trigger it?" I didn't speak. I didn't need to. I opened the folder already prepped on my desk. "I've been waiting for this." She looked at me quietly. "Lily, your parents. They're going to flip when they realize the debt's on them now." I tapped the contract. Every clause crystal clear. No ambiguity. No loophole. Just cold, surgical truth. They always preached unity. Family should face consequences together. I'm just giving them what they taught. Genesis gave a half-laugh, dry, half-pitying. "I'm actually starting to feel sorry for them." I didn't join in. That part of me, the soft part, was long gone. 3 days later, the bank called. The voice was gravelly, clipped professional. "Ms. Lily Carter, this is a formal notification. The loan you co-signed is now overdue. Responsibility will shift to Mr. Albert and Mrs. Vivian Carter as per the signed agreement. Documentation is being finalized and will be delivered within 24 hours. I didn't move for a moment. Then slowly I exhaled, like someone releasing a weight they'd been carrying so long they'd forgotten the ache. Outside, the September sky had turned that dusky orange New Haven wears before fall fully arrives. I grabbed a sweater and stepped onto the balcony, the city humming quietly beneath me. My phone stayed silent. No panicked messages from Madison, no attempts to bargain. Just the stillness that settles before a storm rolls in. And I knew it was coming. I'm not impulsive. I gave them 10 days past the due date. 10 days of silence. I wanted them to believe I'd crack first, that I'd rescue them again. I needed them lulled into thinking I was still predictable. But when no payment came, I acted. Laptop open, files reviewed, legal consultation triple-checked. No errors, no escape. The extended guarantor, clause stood tall, merciless. I compiled evidence flight tickets to Dubai, social media check-ins, and Brad's nauseating promo video. Attached was the contract bearing my parents' signatures signed in their own confident hands. That night, Genesis called. Her voice lower than usual. "You really sent it?" "Yes," I said. "And the bank received it." I knew exactly what would follow, who would call. And when my phone finally rang, I let it buzz 4 times. Then I answered. My mother's voice sliced through the receiver, high, panicked, unraveling. "Lily, what have you done?" I didn't speak. Not yet. She wasn't ready for the truth. But I was. The call came late, brittle with panic. "Someone from the bank just called." My mother snapped. "They said we owe nearly $60,000. What the hell is this? What did you do?" I leaned back in my chair, the quiet hum of my desk lamp casting a tired glow across the contract folder I had never once forgotten. "Read the contract, Mom. The extended guarantor clause. You and Dad signed it." There was frantic rustling on the other end, pages flipping, searching. Then nothing. Just silence. Not the kind born from confusion. The kind born from comprehension. You trapped us," she whispered, venom tucked under every syllable. I smiled faintly, voice soft and even. "No, Mom. I followed the law." Then my father's voice emerged, rough and angry like gravel under pressure. "Lily, you're tearing this family apart. Madison and Brad are just a little behind. Do you really need to blow this up?" My voice didn't shake. It was steady, measured like a ledger closed with finality. "They didn't fall behind. They ran. And I'm done being the net they fall into every time they disappear." Silence stretched. "Who exactly are you trying to teach a lesson, Lily?" Mom asked, but the usual edge in her voice had softened. Her performance was unraveling. I turned toward the window, the New Haven skyline flickering in the distance. "I'm not teaching anyone anything. I'm just letting people learn." Then the sobbing began, practiced, familiar. The same tear-stained manipulation that had worked for years. But something inside me had changed. The performance no longer moved me. "From now on," I said coolly, "you can deal with the bank directly. I'm out. You'll regret this, Lily. You'll need us someday." Her name flashed on the screen again as I hung up, cold, definitive. I didn't wait for another call. The next morning, the bank sent the final confirmation the debt transfer was complete. My parents were now the official debtors. Genesis sent a message. "It's done. Congratulations." I didn't reply. I didn't need celebration. This wasn't triumph. It was release. That afternoon, I stopped by their house, the one they once called the cornerstone of their American dream. Foreclosure notices now wallpapered the front door. Inside, bank envelopes blanketed the dining table, suffocating the air with reality. My father stared at me like I was the storm. My mother, ashen, collapsed under the weight of her own decisions. "We're going to lose the house, Lily. Is that what you wanted?" She gestured around. "You grew up here." I didn't blink. "This is the house you mortgaged twice for Madison without even asking me. Don't lecture me about family, Mom. Not when you've always treated me like a safety net you could stretch until it tore." Her tears fell freely now. But I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction. Just a clean, unfamiliar quiet. I paused at the door. "The bank is offering a payment plan. You'll find it in your email." And then I left, leaving them to hold what they signed for. 10 days later, I saw the Vermont vacation home, my supposed inheritance, the place they once promised I'd escape to, listed online. A quick sale 1/3 below market value. Another fantasy auctioned off to cover the cost of their favoritism. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't even sad. The ache had drained from me the day I passed the burden back to them, the very ones who taught me that family meant sacrifice as long as I was the one sacrificing. That afternoon, my mother came to my office. No call, no warning. The tailored dress she once flaunted was wrinkled and sagging. Her eyes were ringed in fatigue no concealer could hide. "Lily, you have to help us," she said, quiet, almost begging. I didn't look up from my screen. My voice was cool, surgical. "I think you've dialed the wrong number, Mom." She slammed the door shut behind her. "Don't do this. Say what you want, but don't just stand there and watch your family lose everything." I set down my pen. "Family?" I echoed slowly. "You only use that word when there's a mess you need me to clean up. This mess, you made it. You and Madison, I'm not here to fix it anymore." Her hands trembled, clutching her designer bag like a lifeline. "You're doing this for revenge, aren't you?" I laughed dry and hollow. "No, Mom, this isn't revenge. It's called consequences. Very different things." She looked smaller than I remembered. Her voice cracked. "They're threatening to take the house. That house is your childhood, Lily." I rose from my chair, slowly walking to the window. My voice was distant. "Yes, my childhood. Funny how none of you ever asked what that felt like. The house you mortgaged twice without asking me. The house you handed over to Madison and Brad like a free vacation lodge every summer." I said it quietly, but every word landed like a blade. This time her tears were real. No mascara, no theatrics, just a mother crumbling under the weight of her own history. She pulled out her phone, her hand trembling, and showed me the flood of foreclosure notices. "Lily, if you help us, we'll pay you back. We'll fix this. As a family. You've always been the smart one." I didn't even look at the screen. "Exactly, Mom. I'm the smart one, which is why I know there will be no later this time. You and Dad will figure this out without me." "But Madison is your sister. She'll pay. She's just struggling." My voice sliced through her excuse like broken glass. "She's not struggling. She's partying. In Dubai. I monitor their social media accounts daily. You're the only one still clinging to their lies." She sank into the chair across from me like gravity itself had betrayed her. Her eyes, once quick to judge, were now swollen red and unsure. "Then, what do you want, Lily? You want us thrown out onto the street? You want people to laugh at your parents?" I stood slowly gathering my files. "No, I want you and Dad to feel what it's like to be held accountable. I want you to experience the fear I did when I emptied my savings to pay for Dad's medication, while Madison was posting beach selfies in Santorini." I grabbed my bag, heading for the door. "The bank sent the payment plan to your email. I suggest you actually read it this time." Her sobs followed me out, but this time they were weightless. I didn't look back. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. No TV, no music. Just the soft buzz of my laptop fan and the quiet reckoning in my chest. I opened the folder where I'd archived over a decade of our family's debts, receipts, transfers, texts, begging for help. Every bailout I had performed in silence. I dragged it into the trash and deleted it. One click, one exhale. No more financial guilt dressed up as loyalty. No more Lily the fixer. What remained was just me, free, clear-eyed, and unburdened. But I wasn't done. Letting them stew in financial ruin was too easy, too clean. Madison and Brad had orchestrated a crime, not a mistake. And I had the proof. I opened another folder, the one labeled Insurance. Inside screenshots of emails between Madison and Brad plotting to default. Audio clips of Brad bragging at a private rooftop party about how they'd outsmart American banks. Photos of Madison signing for a beachfront villa while still defaulting on debt. Every piece was organized, time-stamped, undeniable. When I sent it all to Genesis, she called immediately. "Lily, this isn't just negligence. This is organized fraud. They won't just face fines, this could be prison. I didn't respond. I no longer needed encouragement. 3 days later, I submitted the file to the U.S. Department of Justice and the International Fraud Prevention Division. 1 week passed before the email arrived, evidence verified. Case forwarded to Special Investigations, and then things began to collapse. Genesis called her voice sharp. "Turn on the finance channel. Now." I did, and almost laughed. Brad was being escorted out of an investment conference in Dubai, his face, bloodless wrists, cuffed, surrounded by reporters. His so-called million-dollar startup exposed as a front for tax evasion and illegal transfers. Visa revoked. Accounts frozen. Then came Madison. A sobbing Instagram story. "We're being framed. Please, someone find us a good lawyer in Dubai." The comments section turned brutal once loyal followers now delighted in their fall from grace. I didn't comment. I just copied the article link and sent it to my mother with 3 words: "I warned you." Her only reply, a photo. The bank's notice of seizure. The Vermont vacation home, my so-called inheritance, was gone. Everything they used to boast about, everything they once weaponized against me, was now turning to ash. 3 days later, I was officially contacted by federal agents. I was asked to testify as the original evidence provider. Genesis accompanied me to the hearing. She slid the thick file onto the table, calm and unshaken. "This is the complete record. Madison Carter and Bradley Evans orchestrated a plan to evade debt launder funds and commit international fraud." I sat beside her, hands wrapped around a cold glass of water, eyes fixed forward. No trembling, no fear, just clarity. They would face charges, and I didn't need to lift another finger. That night, my phone buzzed with an international call, and I knew exactly whose voice was about to shatter. I didn't need to check the caller ID. The trembling breath on the other end was already familiar. Madison's sobs spilled out like a faucet she couldn't shut off. "Lily, they froze all my accounts. I have nowhere to stay. I'm being held at the airport. Please, please help me." I didn't shift in my seat. My voice didn't rise or crack. It stayed cool, detached. "Did you forget to read Dubai's immigration laws? No money, no valid visa. That means deportation." She gasped. "You want me dead?" "Lily, I'm your sister." I let out a soft, mirthless laugh. "My sister died the moment she chose fraud over family. Whoever's calling me now is just a criminal looking for cover." Madison's voice shattered. "Mom's falling apart. Dad hasn't slept. You're destroying us, this whole family." "No," I cut in. "You and they did that long ago. I'm just not here to save you anymore." I hung up and blocked the number. An email slid into my inbox, clean clinical. The Carter Evans international fraud case has officially moved to the prosecution stage. I archived it. No wait, no drama. Just another closure ticked off. Less than a month after the foreclosure, the Vermont vacation home was back on the market, cheap, unguarded, and stripped of all its inflated glory. My parents had no cards left to play. No second mortgage. No reputation to bluff with. I bought it back. Not for nostalgia, not for redemption, but because I could. Because the house that once echoed with exclusion and quiet cruelty would now become mine on my terms, in my silence. On the day of handover, I went alone. No ceremony, no audience, just me and a place that once represented promises dangled like a carrot I was never meant to reach. "This house will be yours someday, Lily," my mother used to say. "But for now, let your sister enjoy it." Now that house was in my name. Legally. Unquestionably. They had moved out, left behind furniture, dusty trinkets, whatever pride they couldn't pack. I walked through each room, letting the autumn light spill across the faded wood floors. The house felt smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I had just finally outgrown it. That afternoon, a message came. My mother. Lily, can we come back this weekend? We need to talk as a family. I ignored it. That evening, my father called. His voice strained hollow. Lily, you've won. What more do you want? We just want to come back. One last time. To talk. Just us. I paused. Then I said yes. But not to forgive. Not to forget. I just wanted them to see what consequence looked like up close. The next night, they arrived on time. I left the front door unlocked. No welcome, no words, just silence. Letting them walk into the house they once believed would always be theirs. My mother looked around. Her voice was brittle. You repainted. It looks better. I said nothing. My father pulled out a chair, clearing his throat. You did what none of us thought you would. You made us pay. All of us. I admit it. I crossed my arms, my gaze unflinching. I don't care about confessions, Dad. Just say what you want. My mother's lip trembled. Your father lost his job. We have nowhere else. Can we stay here? Just for a while? I let out a cold, thin laugh. Stay here. In the house where you once pushed me out of the living room because Madison and Brad needed creative space. The house where you said I didn't need a room because I was too dull. My mother's head fell. Tears splashed quietly onto the hardwood floor. We were wrong. Lily, please, can you give us a chance? As a family, I stood, walked to the door, opened it wide. Family. You only say that when you're drowning. I'm not your lifeline anymore. This is my house. I live here quietly, alone, and no one crosses this door again. My father opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. No more bargaining, no more guilt, just the sound of the door closing behind them. If you still have any pride left, I said, stepping onto the porch, figure it out yourselves, the way I've been doing for the last 10 years. If not, that's your choice. I turned my back on them without another glance. The exit's in the back. Don't make me say it again. Their footsteps, slow, reluctant, defeated, echoed down the hallway and out of the house that used to be their pride. I didn't watch them go. That night, I stood on the balcony with a glass of wine, staring out at the silent Vermont mountains. The moon was high, casting silver over a house that was finally mine. Not borrowed, not promised, not used. Mine. And yet I didn't feel triumphant. No smug satisfaction. Only the stillness of someone who'd finally returned to where they should have always belonged. There were no more deals, no more debts disguised as love, no memories hanging like chains from the rafters. Just a clean space, a quiet home. And for the first time in decades, the emptiness I felt wasn't loneliness, it was peace. I couldn't even remember the last time Madison called. Maybe it was the day she was deported, or the day her last account was frozen. All those messages, desperate voicemails, emails laced with panic. They bled quietly into my blocked list. A digital graveyard I never visited. I didn't need to hear them anymore. The chorus was always the same. We're family. That word. Family. For almost 40 years it had meant one thing, sacrifice without question. Now I knew better. To them, family was a loophole, a license to demand, a shield against consequence, and I was done letting it control me. I was no longer Lily Carter, obedient daughter of Albert and Vivian. I was Lily woman of her own making, living in a house she bought not inherited. A house with walls she painted, locks she changed, and rooms she claimed as hers. The old family portraits, Gone. Boxed up. Sold. I kept only what I chose. Nothing remained unless it earned its place. Genesis still came by on weekends, her usual bottle of wine, her wry smile. "So," she'd ask, "how does it feel owning the house, the life, the silence?" I smiled, pouring her another glass. "Lighter than I thought," I said. "Letting go of the people who drained me? Turns out it's easier than clinging to them." She leaned back, watching the woods. "Sometimes the best revenge is paperwork, quiet, legal. No need to raise your voice." I nodded. I didn't need anyone to know what I'd done. I didn't want applause. I wasn't trying to win. I just wanted peace. Madison still posted on social media, biting captions blaming me for destroying the family. But I didn't care. Everyone has a story to tell. I had just stopped explaining mine. My parents had moved into a small rental outside the city. Genesis mentioned it once. I didn't ask. I didn't look. I didn't open that door again. One winter night, snow blanketed the porch. I sat by the fireplace, a mug of hot cocoa in hand. No calls, no debt, no begging. My account balance never crossed my mind. My name was on everything I owned. No co-signers, no strings, just mine. Those years when I'd sob in silence at hospital waiting rooms, while Madison posed in Italy with captions like, "Life is meant to be enjoyed," they had faded. The insults my mother threw like knives, the way she turned me into a wallet with a heartbeat. All of it felt like echoes from someone else's life. I didn't wish for their apologies. I didn't need their understanding. I just needed them gone. Gone from my home. Gone from my decisions. Gone from the equation of my life. Some endings don't need fire or fury. Sometimes the real closure is silence. A deed in your name. A clean account. A quiet porch. And you sitting alone. But never lonely again. I don't know what comes next, but I do know what won't. I will never again be someone's safety net. Never a name on their last-minute emergency list. Never the shadow that picks up after their chaos. I didn't close this chapter with rage. I closed it with signatures, with clarity, with a locked door. And that was freedom. From Lily's story, we're reminded, real freedom doesn't roar. It doesn't seek revenge or beg for closure. It chooses peace. It chooses self-respect. It chooses silence. Sometimes the strongest boundary is simply saying nothing and meaning it. What would you have done in Lily's place? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow for more hauntingly real stories that stay with you long after the final line.